Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
They didn't put the stuff in here, so I'd like to welcome you here this morning to our Lyceum this morning. I'd like to introduce our speaker this morning. He is a medium, I think a healer, right? Medium, healer, and teacher here in the organization. I'd like to bring up Richard Russell.
Thank you, Reverend Lou. Welcome all that are here and physically and on the other side of the veil, and those that are on Zoom.
I'm going to play with your mic for a minute.
Okay, little mechanical repair here for a moment.
Just so people can hear you into this. There we go.
My name is Richard Russell. I've lived in Cassadaga for 24 years. It's been quite a ride, if I should say. This is a metaphysical Sunday school, what we call Lyceum. And it's meant to try to open your mind to different ideas. Many don't know that back in the 1800s, Lilydale, which is sort of the grandmother of Cassadaga, Florida, there was a group called the Society of Free Thinkers. And there's a hotel there called the Linoleum. It's outside the gates. And that was their main headquarters. It is, quote, still part of Cassadaga, but it's not within the gates. And you can go up there and stay. But there was a attitude that there's many paths to the truth, many paths to the divine. And when I first came to Cassadaga, Reverend Jim, who was president at that time, says, Richard, we have Buddhists here, we have Christians here, we have Islam here, we have Jews here. Accept the fact that not any particular religion has all the answers. And that's when I learned very early that this was a different kind of a place. That there was that ancestry of the free thinkers still alive here. There's many people that are trying to close it down a little bit and say you have to think this way or this way. My talk today deals with some of this. It's called Mind versus Consciousness of Your Higher Spiritual Self. With the age of high tech, cell phones, text messaging, artificial intelligence, emails, we as human beings are being led away from our human one-on-one touching in with each other. That heart talk, which transcends verbal speech and rewards the empathic gifts that we all have to one degree or another. As a spiritualist, this trend, in my opinion, is separating us from each other in a concerning way. Emphasizing the left brain, ego part of our brain, and discounting the importance of a balanced person includes that right brain, creative, sensitive side of humanity. It's that part of us where our higher spiritual selves can communicate with that unlimited potential afforded to every human being that has that breath of life, that spiritual energy breathed into them at birth. Yes, I believe every person in this room listening and listening on Zoom has the potential to tap into this unlimited potential through our meditation practices and listening to our higher spiritual selves. This is not something that's taught in schools. It's really not something that's taught in churches. We're told what to believe. To many people, however, along the cycles of their life, have moved away from their potential and possibilities due to experiences and wrong thinking. That does not mean that higher consciousness potential does not still exist within them, but we have forgotten that part of us and have let the mind part of us take control. The mind gets all the information from the outside world. TV, radio, the internet, telling us what to think and what to believe. We are not our minds. That's strange, isn't it? We are not our minds. But if we turn over control to our environmental influences, rather than the heavy lifting of developing our higher spiritual selves, we should not wonder why we cannot find peace. Peace, which to me should be the goal of every human being. The ego brain will never allow you to achieve peace, as it will always be searching for the next best thing, the next best book, the next best person who has all the answers for us from our chaotic world. I assert to you, my dear people, that without you, each and every one of you, this world would never be the same. Each one of you have a unique piece of the puzzle of God's plan for our world. Our walk through life should be ever to increase the development of our higher understanding of why we are here and the important work each has to do with the days left on this earth plane. Having that driving purpose that we can develop and intend is the stuff that keeps us moving forward to why we are and why each is living this life. Not listening to the outer clatter telling us who we should be and what to believe. You know, a lot of the population says, oh, that's all right. I'd rather be lazy and have people tell me what to believe. I would like to delve into the subject of the mind and beliefs that I have discussed from this platform before. There are 9 statements about the mind and beliefs I would like to put out there for you to consider or reconsider from an earlier talk. Number 1, you are not your mind. The first time I heard somebody say that, I didn't like the sound of it a bit. What else could I be? I had taken for granted that the mental chatter in my mind was the central me, that all the experiences of life were happening to. I see quite clearly now that life is nothing but passing experiences. And my thoughts are just one more category of things I experience. Thoughts are no more fundamental than smells, sights, and sounds. Like an experience, they arise in my awareness, they have a certain texture, and then they give way to the next thing. If you can observe your thought just like you can observe other objects, who's doing the observing? Don't answer too quickly. This question and the unspeakable answer are at the center of all great religions and spiritual traditions. Let me continue. Number 2, life unfolds only in moments. Of course, I have called the most important thing I ever learned. Nobody has ever experienced anything that wasn't part of a single moment unfolding. That means life's only challenge is dealing with the single moment you are having right now. Before I recognized this, I was constantly trying to solve my entire life, battling problems that weren't actually happening. Anyone can summon the resolve to deal with a single present moment, as long as they are truly aware that it's only possibly be useful. Nobody can deal with the past or the future because both only exist as a thought in the present, as we can kill ourselves trying to deal with the past and the future. Number 3, quality of life is determined by how you deal with your moments, not which moments happen and which don't. I know now consider this to be happiness 101. But it's amazing how tempting it still is to grasp at control of every circumstance, to try to make sure I do exactly what I want, to encounter an undesirable situation and work with it willingly is the mark of a wise and happy person. Imagine getting a flat tire, falling ill at a bad time, or knocking something over and breaking it, and suffering nothing from it. There is nothing to fear if you agree with yourself to deal willingly with adversity whenever it does show up. That is how to make life better. The typical low-leverage method is to hope that you eventually accumulate power over your circumstances so that you can get what you want more often. There's an excellent line in a Modest Mouse song celebrating this side effect of wisdom. As life gets longer, awful feels softer. Number 4, most of life is imaginary. Human beings have a habit of compulsive thinking that is so pervasive that we lose sight of the fact that we are nearly always thinking. Most of what we interact with is not the world itself, but our beliefs about it, our expectations of it, and our personal interests in it. We have a very difficult time observing something without confusing it with the thoughts that we have about it. So we're immediately changing what we're viewing to fit our belief in it. And so the bulk of what we experience in life is imaginary, things, some of which actually happened. I've been through some terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened. The best treatment I've found, cultivating mindfulness. Number 5, human beings have evolved to suffer, and we were better suffering than anything else. Yikes. It doesn't sound like a very liberating discovery. I used to believe that I was suffering. It meant that there was something wrong with me, that I was doing wrong. Suffering is completely human and completely normal, and there's a very good reason for its existence. Life's persistent background hum of "this isn't quite okay, I need to improve this," quote unquote, coupled with occasional intense flashes of horror and adrenaline, are kept human beings alive for millions of years. This urge to change or escape the present moment drives nearly all of behavior. It's a simple and ruthless survival mechanism, which works exceedingly well for keeping us alive, but has a horrific side effect because humans suffer greatly by the very nature. This, for me, redefined every one of life's problems as some tendril of human condition. As grim as it sounds, this insight is liberating because it means, number 1, that suffering does not necessarily mean my life is going wrong. Number 2, that the ball is always in my court. to the degree which I suffer is ultimately up to me. And 3, that all problems have the same cause and the same solution. Number 6, emotions exist to make us biased. This discovery was a complete 180 degree from my 100-old understanding of emotions. I used to think my emotions were reliable indicators of the state of my life, of whether I'm on the right track or not. Your passing emotional states can't be trusted for measuring your self-worth or your position in life, but they are great at teaching you what is you can't let go of. The trouble is that emotions make us both more biased and more forceful at the same time. Another survival mechanism with nasty side effects. Number 7, all people operate from the same 2 motivations: to fulfill their desires and to escape from suffering. Learning this allowed me to finally make sense of how people can hurt each other so badly. The best explanation I had before this was that some people are just bad-natured. What a cop-out. No matter what kind of behavior other people exhibit, they are acting in the most effective way they are capable of at the moment to fulfill a desire to relieve their suffering. These are motives we cannot all understand. We only vary in the method, and the methods each of us has at our disposal depend on our upbringing, our experience in life, as well as our current state of consciousness. Some methods are skillful and helpful to others. Others are unskilled and destructive, and all the destructive behavior is unconscious. So there is no good and no evil, only smart and dumb, or wise and foolish. Understanding this completely shook my long-held notions of morality and justice. Number 8, beliefs are nothing to be proud of. Whoa. Believing something is not an accomplishment. I grew up thinking that beliefs are something to be proud of, but they're really nothing but opinions, and refuses one to reconsider. Beliefs are easy. The stronger your beliefs are, the less open you are to growth and wisdom, because strength of belief is only the intensity which you resist questioning yourself. As soon as you are proud of a belief, as soon as you think it adds something to who you are, then you're made it a part of your ego. Listen to any die-hard liberal or conservative talk about their beliefs, and you are listening to somebody who will never hear what you can say on any matter that matters to them, unless you believe the same way they do. It is gratifying to speak forcefully. It's gratifying to be agreed with. And this high is what the diehards are chasing. Wherever there is a belief, there is a closed door. Take on the beliefs that you stand up to, your most honest, humble scrutiny, and never be afraid to lose them. Do you understand what I just said? Have strong beliefs, have strong convictions, but don't cancel somebody that wants to talk to you about a different idea. We all just close our minds down, both sides of the aisle, and we don't listen to each other, because somebody might be approaching something with a brand new concept. But I'm not listening to you because for 50 years I've believed this. Objectivity is subjective. What the heck does that mean? You can't be objective and subjective. Life is subjective experiences and cannot be escaped. Every experience I have comes through my personal, unshareable viewpoint. There can be no peer reviews of my direct experiences, no real corroboration. This has some major implications on how I live my life. The most immediate one is that I realize I must trust my own personal experience, because nobody else has this angle, and only I have this angle. Only you have the angle of your life and why you believe and have come to what you call objective measures in your life. Another is that I have wonder for the world around me, knowing that any objective understanding I claim to have of the world is built entirely from scratch by me. What I do build depends on the books I've read, the people I've met, and the experiences I've had. It means I will never see the world as anyone else sees it. And therefore I couldn't let outside observers be the authority on who I am or what life really is like for me. Something each of us builds on top of it in our mind privately in order to explain it all. This truth has world-shattering implications for the roles of religion and science in the lives of those who grasp it, who understand it. Well, what does this all mean for our spiritual awakening, for our own consciousness? Growing and evolving to accept that we are not in control of life, and that making ourselves vulnerable in our meditations to tapping into that infinite potential that we all have access to, listening to the signs and symbols of life, and developing those spiritual eyes to connect the dots. Go this way, go this way. Know that we are spiritual experiences living out our existences here on this physical rock called Earth. We don't even know the questions to ask, let alone the answers to life. Accept that. Live in the moment and enjoy each breath, and know that you will be protected and directed to why we are all here. Thank you for listening. I'd like to open up for questions, comments. I probably have shattered some beliefs and ideas here, but I think that's why we're here.
I would like to say that I've been reading about the science of it, and you're confirming all those ideas, so I thank you very much, because I'm also a background of a cultural anthropologist, and I know how we grow and how we were raised influences how we think, and that might not be the purest of the world.
And not for our highest and best.
Right.
Because what I believed when I was 20 and what I believe in my 70s doesn't suit me. But if I hung on to that, I would never find peace. And I tell you, good people, what's kept me in Cassadaga is I found a path to peace. And peace is not happiness. Happiness is, I'll get happy when I get that new car. I'll be happy when I get that new house. I'll be happy when I find the love of my life. Peace, you can be in the middle of a tornado and be at peace. You can be in a saltwater flat in Manhattan and be at peace. Or you can be in a mansion and be miserable. Peace is something that we can find in what I call our higher spiritual self. That's that consciousness that I work at every day. And it's not something that can be given to you. A guru can't give it to you. A book can't give it to you. It's that hard work that we have to do. I call it the internal work. And I guess I'm a slow learner. I've been at it for 24 years and I feel like I'm this far. This far to go. Hope I live that long. But it doesn't matter. As long as it's the journey. As long as you're heading at the right direction. Because it's the process of moving forward that gives us a reason to get up in the morning. You know, so many people come into my office, they're alone, they have no purpose, they can't understand why they're miserable. I can understand it. I was there. That's what drove me here to Cassadaga. Yes, ma'am.
A comment first online. This is exactly what I needed to hear this morning. I've been shut down in silence the last few days, but I never do this to others, no matter how much I disagree with them. Same person online has a question for you. What is the connection between manifesting the best situation in our lives while also detaching from desires and beliefs?
We have to show up as human beings. We can't deny the fact we live in a physical world. I totally believe that we can manifest things in our life. We have a saying here in Cassadaga, like attracts like. And it goes along with the first natural law that we all know of, the natural law of attraction. If you walk out your door looking for the best in life, looking for the best in people, that's generally the energy that we're putting out. Our thoughts are like energy. Not to say that some rascal might not be trying to come into your inner circle and ruin your day, but as you develop that consciousness, that awareness, you can fend them off before they get too close to your interpersonal life. As opposed to the guy that gets up on the wrong side of bed and says, darn, I know it's going to be a bad day. He will look for something to help him make it a bad day. So, the concept, as I understand the question, if we don't attach ourselves to expectations, how can we manifest? Well, you can have goals and purpose in your life. Because, you know, what's the saying? If you don't have a dream, you will never get anywheres. And I think we all need to grow and evolve and find that purpose that we come down to this world with. I believe that each one of us has a very unique purpose. And without you, this world would never be the same. And our walk through life is to find how that piece of the puzzle fits for our life and for the world. So manifesting that desire to know, just help me. Help me deal with this person. Help me deal to know what is for my highest and best. Not to say, I want it this way or this way, because that'll get us into trouble. I hope I've answered the person's question.
Waiting for a response, but it looks, there's someone else that commented, said, very inspired lecture. Thank you for time and knowledge. Open mind, open heart.
That's correct. I have learned one thing. There's a difference between mind chatter and mind thought and heart language. And what's the first organ in the body to develop as a baby? The heart. There is a intelligence in the heart that speaks to us. And if we're only listening to our ego brain, which is our family of origin, our education, our experiences, it's a very small part of us. But the heart language is something that's evolving, and that's where spirit talks to us. And the more that we can open up to that possibility, we're opening up to our human potential, our spiritual hope potential. And that, to me, is what I work at every minute of every day. I never know when a aha moment is going to come to me, whether I'm driving in my car, whether I'm walking down the street, whether I'm in a conversation. I'm always expecting that information's coming to me. You know, we used to have radios that we had to turn the dial to get a strong signal. Otherwise, we would get static. I think we're like that. The evolving of our consciousness is fine-tuning that receptor in us to receive that information coming to us. That's essentially what mediums do. They're fine-tuning those messages so that they can clearly give that person in front of them some spiritual advice on their lives. And it's a lifelong process. My favorite example of this, maybe some of you have heard of it, and this is a person, I don't know, Louis, maybe you heard this. There was a gentleman that came to the camp, and he was so good. He was a spiritual medium. He was a traveling platform speaker. And he was so good that he could come up with telephone numbers and addresses of people that had passed over to the other side of life. And one day down in Kobe Temple, he was doing his thing. He had 50 people in front of him, and he was going down the row telling people and amazing them as to his spiritual insights and connection with spirit. And he comes to this one woman, and he all of a sudden gets a blank look on his face. And he says, "Madam, I don't know what's wrong, but I'm hardly getting anything for you." And she says, "Well, what are you getting?" And he says, "One word." "Well, what is the word?" Now, students are taught first thought, first impression, give it out, because if you noodle it, you're going to screw it up. Well, he was a very good medium. He says, "The only word I'm getting is egg timer." She says, "Oh my God, you're with my husband." They had exchanged that word, that if a medium came to them, when one of them passed, that was the presence of her husband. If he hadn't given it to her, he would have missed the whole message. Heart language, listening to the heart, not here, because he couldn't get the phone numbers and the addresses of her husband, but he got the one thing that was the most important. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. There was so much there. I feel like, do you do this in a seminar format for many more hours? This was just like this much, and I want like this much.
What I've given you is 24 years of accumulated books. I've had as many as 17 people in my home office, living room, teaching A Course in Miracles. I've had many classes on healing, and I would love to go to England and interview the people that run the Healing Sanctuary, which is the institution that Harry Edwards started. If you ever read about the books of healing, you'll know about Harry Edwards. He's long since passed. But to this day, thousands of people come there for healing. And I told my significant other, Debbie, I said I would love to go there if I ever won the lottery, and propose to them forming the Healing Sanctuary USA and build it right here. Because I don't believe we give the subject of healing enough credence in our community. People say they come for healing, but they're really looking for mediumship. People come for mediumship, and they're really looking for healing. It's a seamless thing. But they come and say, "When am I going to make Mr. Right?" Well, maybe if you changed and healed the wounds within you, you would attract Mr. Right. So it's all intertwined. So tell you I can give you a seminar. It's a life journey. I can drive you to the library that we're building, which has 6,000 volumes. It's called the B.N. Gaiman Library.
I'm a librarian, actually, so would love that.
And I would love to have you volunteer because a lot of people think it's just a collection of dusty old books. But you know what? That library has been the donation of 5 estates of former spiritualists that have passed over or who are near their passing. It's called the B.N. Gaiman Library. She started it when she called me up and says, I want to donate my couple thousand books to Cassadaga because I'm selling my big house. And since then, last October, I drove down to Miami to collect 100 books from this woman whose brother died. And he was a spiritualist. Probably, I don't even know if he's ever been here to Cassadaga, but he knew about Cassadaga, and he wanted his 100 books to go to Cassadaga. Some of these books were from his grandfather, and some of those books were from his great-grandfather. They're from the 1800s. They're fragile. But they teach spiritual lessons that we probably have forgotten more than we're being taught today. And people think, well, I can find it on the internet. No, you will never find these books. Some of them are one-off. Some are one editions. And it's a reading library. I have no ability to lend it out. We are now slowly rebuilding after COVID. All my library docents went away. And I'm in the process of trying to collect people. Jeannie here has volunteered to help, she and her husband Bob. And so anybody that wants to understand the value of that resource, if you look at our charter of Cassadaga, guess what? It doesn't talk about mediumship. It talks about 2 things: education and healing. Whoa. But in any one day, if you go on the whiteboard, how many people in the Welcome Center are signed up as healing? We have something like 23 certified healers. To me, I just as soon put my name under healing and forget mediumship. So, walk with us, talk with us, learn with us, grow with us. It's not an instant art. Questions? Yes, Marie.
Real quick, just comment. Real quick, Lou found these little pamphlets of the 1800s about spiritualist mediums and explains all truth of how they used to believe. It was so simple. It woke me up right after surgery. I had time to look at it. And it's just a small, like 20 pages maybe, but each one I couldn't wait to get to. It's like by being
reborn.
Because it was like, oh my gosh, you're waking me up again. It's like that, and then it went on to get the apartment. But that's interesting how that falls into place at the right time.
You know, it's interesting. Very few people know. There's 13 churches in Lake Helen. One of the church is called the Swedenborg Church. How many know that there's a Swedenborg church? Do anybody know Swedenborg? Swedenborg was, Andrew Jackson Davis claimed that he channeled Swedenborg, and a lot of his spiritual truths came from Swedenborg. Swedenborg was I'll just call him a New Age thinker from the 1700s. And it's a little church over in Lake Helen. They don't have a pastor. They have a traveling person that comes in, and if you read their mezzanine, they'll say church is July 25th, 2021, and all are welcome. And I believe we've forgotten more than we know today. And the purpose of a library is to help people remember what's already there. But a curious mind that's closed and says, well, I studied the curriculum at Cassadaga, and I'm a certified medium, and I don't need to learn anymore, you've closed your mind. You're not open to growing that consciousness. And that's the whole purpose of this talk, to question yourself if you think you've arrived, because that's the first problem. 3 minutes. Any last questions? Michael, you've been very quiet.
I've enjoyed, I happened to write down the 8 or 9 sections, but I didn't, I missed 9. Could you look at your list? I'm not sure you designated which concept was your 9.
I did. Objectivity is subjective.
I've got it.
There's no such thing as an objective thought. Your thoughts, your subjective thoughts, color your objective view of what you think is objective. So there's no such thing as an objective thought. It's all subjective. A lot of people will be upset with me. I'll probably get some negative comments about this, but that's okay. Whatever.
They'll bring that to you.
Whatever. Okay, folks. Well, thank you very much, and God bless you all.